Well, we're back again, and it hasn't even been a week since Wargaming apologized. And it turns out it meant nothing. It took them less than a week to prove that their apology meant literally nothing. And I know, I don't really want to be talking about this myself either. I'm sure a lot of you are sick of hearing about all the issues with Wargaming since there's so many of them. I'm not trying to just discuss or talk about drama or problems and complain the entire time on this channel, but I just couldn't believe that in less than a week, Wargaming, after some of the senior managers at Wargaming came out with this apology that was probably not written by them, proved that it meant absolutely nothing. So what happened? If you don't know, someone by the name of Gneisenau, and that's what he went by on the forums, he used to work in the Wargaming North America's office, and he was one of the people in contact with Little White Mouse and Chobitsu over the Yukon project, and he's now been fired. He actually was moved, or he transferred himself, I don't really know the situation, to the World of Tanks North America community. So he actually hasn't been working on the World of Warships project for a long time at this point. And now they've just fired him for something that happened back then. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, what if what he did or said was really bad or poor or something that really did cause all the issues with Little White Mouse and this whole Yukon situation? Well, Little White Mouse herself goes into detail about how it was actually not Gneisenau at all, and he did a great job. So it really makes you think about, why did Wargaming actually fire this guy after he seemingly did the best he could with the situation he was given? He communicated well, and he had great intentions, and he wasn't even on the World of Warships project anymore. He was in World of Tanks. It seems insane to scapegoat someone that late in that such a obscure position. And a lot of people thought the same way, including the World of Tanks North America senior community manager, who goes by Cabmech or Zachary, and he resigned in protest. And I'm not going to read through this. You should go look at it yourself. But you should know that he's got some pretty scathing remarks towards the Russia side of the Wargaming company. He does a great job of letting people know that there's a lot of really good people working at Wargaming, but that the Russia office or the main office, wherever that is, seems to be a bit of the problem, and that they can't seem to take criticism on board. It seems like they have such a gigantic issue with admitting they're wrong and changing the way they do things. I think that's the big thing here. Yes, they apologized less than a week ago, but what we're seeing here is more evidence of nothing changing. So when you apologize and then your actions don't change, your apology means nothing. In fact, it's worse, in my opinion, that you apologize, because it means you're just trying to trick people into siding with you and being okay with your actions. It's ridiculous. So now I want to take a look at the very end of that apology they released less than a week ago, mind you. They talk about communication and how we as the community need to do a better job of communicating with them. This is how they end their apology to the community, saying the community needs to do a better job. And they say that if we show them respect and treat them as human beings and all those things, which I agree with, our voice will carry far more weight with them. Well, the issue with that is we've seen some posts from other people within the Wargaming team that are not filtered through a whole team of public relations people that honestly really do need to have a bigger role at Wargaming, if they even exist at all. I'm assuming they exist simply because this apology was well written, even though they're really not going to do any of the things inside of this apology. But what was said, you might ask? Well, Wargaming is letting us know that we shouldn't be able to criticize them or speak about balancing decisions or anything of that nature unless we ourselves are a developer. They're using the argument that if you're not a chef, you can't critique the food. If you don't direct movies, you can't critique a movie. And while I do think there is a weird, twisted way that makes sense, that you should have some knowledge in the field before you critique something, you don't have to be the one making these things to know when something's wrong. We all know a bad steak when we eat one, right? If it comes to your table and it's charred to a crisp and you ordered a medium rare, well, I think it's pretty justifiable to complain in that scenario. It doesn't take a chef to know that something is wrong. And before we say that this is just one guy and the rest of the team doesn't think this way and they're actually changing like they say in their apology, let's just remember all the remarks and little leaks that we get here and there of the actual developers behind the game constantly undermining what the CCs had to say and what other players have to say on their game. They do not listen to the community. They do not care. And everything I have seen seems to support this case. And even people like Sub-Octavian, who I'm not sure why he's no longer as much of a public figure, but I would think it would have to do a little bit with the way that he's spoken about the community when he doesn't think that people are watching. And in regards to the rest of the team, at least in the Russian office or the head office that makes all of these major balancing decisions, I haven't seen anything that would remotely indicate that people are actually caring about what the community thinks. I do agree with the World of Tanks senior community manager who resigned that there are good people in Wargaming still. I just think that they're in the satellite branches around the world. I think that the whole issue here is just coming right from the center. It's rotten to the core, and that's the head office in Russia of Wargaming. And until we see major changes to the way they do business, to the way that they monetize their game, to the way they communicate with the players, to the way they communicate in between their offices, meaning that they don't just scapegoat and fire someone who's no longer been working on the project for a few months. Until we see changes like that, I truly believe that Wargaming views the players as nothing but cash cows with credit cards and bank accounts that they're trying to get access to. That is it. That is all. This game has some good elements to it. When you're playing the game and there's no aircraft carrier and there's no submarines and there's no Petro and there's no Smolensk and there's no Thunderer, there's a lot of caveats here. There is a good game underneath, and that is why I'm still playing it, because I have a lot of fun with this game still when I get the right scenario. And unfortunately, it seems like we're never getting back to those good days where I would have fun for hours and hours and hours, where I could play the game for an entire night. Those of you that watch my streams know that I don't stream this game that long. It's become a bit of a meme at this point, but I can barely handle a couple hours playing this game. My average stream time over the last couple months is around an hour and 40 minutes. That's it. That's all I can manage with it when it comes to this game without tilting. And of course, I don't want to be frustrated when I'm playing a video game. I'm playing a video game for fun. So that's another reason that my streams probably don't last as long. I could play for longer, but I don't like how I get when I'm frustrated. So I just decide to end the stream instead. But I want to play this game. I want this game to be good. But until we see any evidence of change in the way Wargaming operates, it's just going to keep getting worse. And this is just evidence after this apology that they have no intentions of changing. Now I want to talk a little bit about the Wargaming QA process, because today, as I'm recording this, patch 10.8 just released and hopefully fixed the torpedo bug that they spent so much time testing and making sure it would get into the game in patch 10.8. They fixed the bug, 2 patches later, 2 months, 3 months, somewhere in there after it went into the game. And myself and a lot of people pointed out that, well, the AA glitch that was doing too much damage to planes was fixed within a week. How come there's a difference there? And Wargaming decides to tell us that there's a whole process of managing the quality assurance of the game and actually putting out a patch in a stable way that is not going to break things, and that the glitch that caused the torpedoes to not go where you aim them was a part of the core game physics and how it works, whereas the AA change was simply a value change. And I could believe that if Wargaming didn't, the very patch that they introduced the update for the torpedo fix, break the Kurfürst and Freddy 406mm guns. There is no QA process. They do not care if bugs get into the game. The only time they care and are willing to fix the bugs quickly is if it impacts their bottom line, of which I went into detail about why the AA change impacted their bottom line. Not going to go into it here, but let's be honest. The Kurfürst is not a popular tier 10 battleship. It's kind of on the weak side. It doesn't get overmatched. It has a giant superstructure. It's spotted from the moon. It doesn't turn. It is not a good battleship. Let's just be very clear. So who cares if the 406mm guns are losing 1200 alpha damage? They're actually nerfed by 1200 alpha just from the patch 10.7 to 10.8. Not that anybody was told about this, mind you, and there was no data shown to say, oh, these ships were overperforming or anything. It's unlikely that they could even possibly spin the data to look like that. But Wargaming did say they were going to communicate better on balance decisions, didn't they? Didn't they say they were going to explain their decisions better? And I'm recording this the day of the patch, so it's probably going to come out that this was a change based on the new German battleship line that's coming out, and they have 406mm guns there that are of the World War I type, and so therefore the shells do less alpha damage. That's kind of been the thing. If your shells, which this is all hidden from the players so that you don't get to know, not all guns are equal, even if it's the exact same gun. The shell type actually matters a ton, and so if your AP shell is from World War I, it's going to have far less pen, far worse alpha, and far worse crop value. So it's going to be harder to aim because it's slower through the air. It's going to have a worse time actually doing damage to angled targets. And of course, you're just going to be doing less damage when it does pen. But that's compared to a World War II shell. And that is a weird hidden balancing mechanic that they use some of the time. And it seems like that's what they're trying to do with the German battleships that are in testing. But they broke the German battleships that have been in the game for years at this point. This is assuming that this is just a bug and not intentional. If it's intentional, it's even worse. It means that they do not care about communicating with the community or explaining their balancing decisions like they said they would. It's just bad either way. Either they're incompetent or they're maliciously ignoring the community and do not care about explaining anything to the community. Either way, it doesn't look good. And to me, all of this coming out pretty much in the last couple days, less than a week after they apologized and said they would do better, is enough evidence, for me at least, to see that Wargaming does not care about the community. They are not sorry. All they care about is their bottom line, and that they get to continue operating this online, unregulated casino, and possibly even money laundering. That one, of course, they're under investigation for, and we'll see whatever happens to that. And I know that we don't know for sure it's them or the companies they're choosing to do business with, but it's shady nonetheless. And to me, all of this is just screaming that the players will never, ever be the priority to Wargaming, at least with the current management in Russia. And until that changes, this game is never going to get better. So I'm sorry to bring up this horrible, depressing note, but this was just too crazy to not talk about less than a week after they apologized. It's crazy. It's crazy how quickly their words meant nothing. So thank you very much for watching. I will be posting videos about the game, not about all the drama surrounding it in the coming days, so look forward to that. I'll be playing some of the new Dutch cruisers and playing around with airstrikes and seeing if they're any good or not. So look forward to that, and yeah, I hope you have the great rest of your day, and thank you very much for watching.